So every so often you get asked by your company to set some KPIs, some key performance indicators, and your goals basically. They ask you to set goals for yourself. What they should be doing is asking you to be setting SMART goals. If you're not setting SMART goals already, well, you should be. And even if you do, is there anything specific for an engineer's point of view that you should be doing or that you should be considering? Can we make our goals smarter? To make sure that we're on the same page, what is a SMART goal? It's an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Now, I have also seen the A stand for actionable and the R also mean relevant, and I'll get to the nuances shortly. But what's the purpose of this acronym? The intention is to improve your goal setting and ultimately your goal achieving. A simple example of it is this. Instead of lose weight as your goal, it could be something like go to the gym 4 days a week for the month of June. Or for an engineering example, instead of trying to do well on a project, you could close all defects on my project by the 5th of December. Now, it might sound trivial, but it should automatically sound better to engineers because if there's one thing we avoid like the plague, it's ambiguity. When you write a design specification, a requirement spec, any spec really, you always make the best effort to remove ambiguity. Not only that, if you want to make any efficiency improvements, you ensure you have a way to measure the current performance and the post-performance as well, so that way you can tangibly prove an efficiency gain, right? So why wouldn't the same apply to your goal setting? For completeness, what I just described to you covers the S and M parts of the SMART goal. What about the other letters? A stands for achievable or actionable. So for engineering projects, there's usually a key question being answered, right? And typically you have something achievable or actionable because you're answering a specific question. The reason why it might be less straightforward for yourself to set your own goals is because you're the person that has to set the question to be answered. You're not just trying to find a solution. So my rule of thumb for this is, what is the minimum amount I can challenge myself by? That's what I ask myself. Wait, the minimum amount? I agree, this does sound counterintuitive, but a mistake many people make is setting these lofty goals to tackle in one go. Goals are iterative anyway, right? So even if you have a big picture dream of tackling, like a huge scope, you're more likely to build a perfect wall if you focus on laying the perfect brick and repeating that consistently, right? So instead of trying to make your goal focused on the entire wall, make it based on the brick. So this takes us to the next letter, R, in our SMART goal. And this is the one that stands for realistic or relevant. For me, the letter A can't be achievable or actionable if it's unrealistic. So you should look at the relevancy of your goal. Okay, so that should be pretty straightforward. Don't make a goal unrelated to anything that you're doing. And now T, time-bound. Have you been guilty of setting goals without any time limits? Most engineers, at least the ones I know, need deadlines to get moving, right? You need some sort of consequence or else you just don't feel that pinch and nothing gets done, right? So this is a no-brainer in terms of its value. So why haven't you been putting time limits on your goals? Is it because you want flexibility? Normally KPIs can be tied into your bonus. So I get it to some extent, right? But you do that by giving flexibility in the time scale, not by removing a time requirement. What you can do is, rather than a date, you can do something like before the defects liability period, or some significant event that keeps you honest. Treat it like a variable, right? Now that we've established SMART goals in the engineering context, what are some things we should consider? The most important thing to do is to minimize having the goal based on achieving an outcome. Rather, put the lens on executing a plan which is designed to realize that same outcome. I want you to really think about this one. If the purpose of a goal is to achieve an outcome, why wouldn't I just write my goal based on that outcome? Well, the reason is this. And it's the crux of not really improving your own performance over the long term and achieving your goals, not as often as you should be. Control what you can control. You can control executing against a plan that is intended to achieve an outcome. You can't control that outcome happening. For example, let's say your goal was to complete a project within 1 year. You can write the perfect project plan, perform all your parts well, have great communication, you've been performing on your job above and beyond what is expected, and you're on track to complete the project ahead of schedule. You're doing so good. But then suddenly an unrelated event, like a natural disaster, derails your project for a year. Based on your original goal of completing the project within 1 year, you failed miserably, right? But did you perform poorly? No. Of course, this would be a completely explainable situation that a good company should take into consideration. You shouldn't be penalized heavily for, but this is just a large example to explain why your goal should be focused on the execution of a method or a plan designed to achieve that goal. Like the lose weight example, right? Whether the scale says you lost 1 kilo or 20 kilos, you should be measuring your success on the execution of your plan to diet and exercise. Most likely you will achieve the goal of losing weight as a byproduct, but you take the pressure off of yourself from failing and because you only lost 1 kilo, right? When really, you've been doing really well. You've been disciplined and you've been executing your plan. The part that you can do something about. Your body may not lose weight at the rate you expect or at the timings you expect. Now, okay, maybe you're sitting there and you're still not convinced. Take a look at people who appear to commonly achieve their goals. Do it yourself. Pick the person yourself because it has to be someone you respect or you look at and go, okay, this person does well. Assess them yourself now. From now on, look at their goals and are they smart ones? I'll be doing an analysis of Elon Musk's goals for his company and seeing if they are smart goals or not. I'll do that in another video, so be on the lookout for that. Let's wrap this up. You should be trying to make your goals smart ones. Adding this lens has been shown to improve the odds of achieving that goal. You know it to be true based on how you approach engineering problems, that when you have smart problem statements that you're trying to achieve, you're in a much better position to achieve them. And finally, control what you can control. Try to set goals that are focused on the execution of a plan or method intended to achieve an outcome, rather than the goal being the outcome itself. And that should do it. So if you liked anything you saw today or you thought, hey, I'm going to start setting some smart goals, give me a like just so I know that you have. And even if you haven't, you'll want to stick around and subscribe for my future videos because I'll do some analysis on Elon Musk, like I mentioned before, and look at his goals for his companies and we'll see, is he setting smart goals? Is there something we can learn there? And you can do a comparison between what you're doing and what he's doing. See if you can bridge the gap a little bit. With that being said, see you in the next one.